What's the stupidest thing you've ever heard anyone say? Apparently when my daughter was first born she looked vaguely East Asian enough, at least, for the nurses to ask if I was sure it was my baby. Now that was an incredibly weird thing to say to a new dad meeting his daughter for the first time, but it wasn't the stupidest thing someone said about this situation. That happened when I was retelling the above story to a client in a meeting. He asked to see a photo of my kid as a newborn, remarked how she really did look Asian, and then proceeded to ask if I thought my child might end up having an Asian accent when she got older, man face palming. During training for port security on the naval base, a guy asked what we would do if they had a concealed weapon. The instructor told him that's why we do a thorough search and if we feel like we missed anything to use a metal detector. The guy went on to ask about if they had it concealed in their bodies. The instructor asked what he meant by that. He responded, completely serious, what if Wolverine shows up? He has claws hidden inside his body, how would know? And if we knew, how would we detain him? Pretty much summed up my time in the military. 2 coworker incidents are tied. 1. When I told one guy that I used to live in Japan so you were in Hong Kong, then. 2. When I asked another coworker for help deciphering an email that was color-coded in a way I couldn't see. Wait, so if you're colorblind, then how can you read? Honorable mention goes to a Trump supporter I know. Directly after Charlottesville we have to support the free speech rights of Nazis. Because Buddhists use swastikas too. Sat next to a dude, about 16 or so, on the train in Australia. We started talking, his question still haunted me. This was 25 years ago. He, where are you from? Me, Finland. He, Finland? Me, it's in Europe. He, Europe? Me. So there are continents. He, continents? Me, UHH. Yeah, so. Australia is both a continent and a country. Never mind. I will read my book now. In recent memory, my ex-mother-in-law told me that everyone who got the COVID vaccine would be dead within 5 years and that we should be consuming ivermectin and vitamins instead. She said this to me during an unexpected phone call she made to me, crying because she had just found out her daughter got vaccinated and was grilling me with questions like when and why she did it. I have a twin brother. I can't count how many times people have asked me if we are identical. I just dead stare at them until they think through what they asked. If that doesn't work 99 of the time it does, I just say really slowly, no, we have different chromosomes. Or occasionally I have to actually explain why boy-girl twins are always fraternal, never identical. There's a kid in the same class as me. We're both 15. He was talking to some friends, and someone brought up hieroglyphs, ancient Egyptian symbols. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it's along the lines of isn't that when plants take in water and sunlight? He has 0 mental issues but has said so many dumb things. This was probably the stupidest thing he's said. The guy a few years back that tried to convince me that the earth was flat. I asked him to get back to me when he could show me a model of the flat earth that's able to explain the night-day cycle as well as the seasonal cycle because he was bringing up entirely different models to explain each. That finally brought things to an end. Sometimes you can't fix stupid. A friend of mine who is a big Trumper told me that liberals don't believe in the Constitution. I have a law degree. He works in a slaughterhouse. It was very hard not to give a condescending answer. So hard, in fact, that I could not do it. I had to apologize later because his feelings were so hurt. I did feel bad that I hurt his feelings, but WTF? My coworkers convinced another coworker that if you count the lines on your hands, it will tell you how many chromosomes you have. If you have over 50 then you're gifted. I think he counted 80 or something and was so excited he told his GF, parents, family etc. to count the lines on their hand. He didn't last much longer at the job. Is it the oxygen in water that puts the fire out? Followed by did you lose a lot of your friends in the war too when we had a sub working on the Demon Core, thinking he was Vietnam era, and finally is fire also magnetic? After discussing water's paramagnetic properties. This was in an AP chemistry class. I once saw someone say the following. If every woman were to die, humanity would die out in a single generation. If every man were to die, humanity would recover and blossom in a single generation. Like, you know things are bad when I'm the one who has to educate people about how reproduction works. My sister once argued that Alaska is not part of the United States. I asked if she meant just the contiguous states. She means that we have no relation to land mass at all. I made her sing the first few names of 50 Nifty and it finally clicked for her. Yes, she did think the same of Hawaii. Solar panels will cause a global ice age, Because the law of thermodynamics states energy cannot be created or destroyed, so obviously they must be removing heat from the air. With no sense of irony of the scale nor efficiency or lack thereof of solar panels and their capacity to cool. At one of my first jobs as a graphic designer, a client called me into his office and pulled up a photo he took. He then asked me if I could turn it around. No, not rotate it, but turn the viewpoint around. He wanted to see what was behind the camera when he originally took the photo. I was walking around the ruins of the ancient cliff dwellings at Mesa Verde just outside of Mancos, Colorado, where the ancient Puebloans lived from approximately 550 AD to 1300 AD when a visitor asked the tour guide, why did they build their home so far from the highway? My wife and I were vacationing in St. Augustine, Florida and went to a big cat rescue. This particular one had other animals as well. A few peahens were walking about and a husband asks his wife what is that? The wife replies, I think that's a turducken. I barely held it together. In American history class in a high school in California we were learning about the American Revolution. The teacher was going over all the battles and how bloody and awful they were. A girl raised her hand. Teacher called on her. Her question? So the Americans won, right? My teacher told a class of 16-17-year-olds about that super loyal dog in Japan who walked to the train station daily for 9 years to wait for his owner, who died at work. After hearing that story, a girl raised her hand and asked why didn't somebody just tell the dog? A lot of the pseudoscientific stuff is pretty dumb. I get the most annoyed by astrology. Especially in India where matching birth charts is a big deal before marriage as it's supposed to make or break the marriage. And it's disappointing that it's so widespread. Worked with a girl at a grocery store, in Wisconsin, that confidently said that chocolate milk came from brown cows. After trying to convince her it was just flavoring and not believing me, I asked her where pink strawberry milk came from. Her mind was blown. COVID vaccines are a secret government method for tracking people. Sure, because registering to vote, getting a social security number, getting a driver license ID, possessing an address, mobile phone, and birth certificate are just not cutting it. When I was 12 years old a friend told me smoking is good for you because the smoke makes a shield around your heart when you breathe it in. He argued that the smoke could prevent you from being stabbed or shot. Even at 12 I knew he was a moron. I once had a co-worker who believed the dinosaurs didn't exist, as the Bible doesn't mention them. On a funnier note, he also took thought right Twix and left Twix were actually two separate products that were made differently. Just about an hour ago, my 18 almost 19-year-old daughter says this. I just learned that if you pay for gas with cash and you give them too much, you can get your money back. I told her I feel like I failed as a father. Only white people can be racist. Racism is a weapon that was created by the white man to repress the minorities, thus only white people can be racist. That's like saying Pete created the M1911, so only he can use it. I thought Paris was in London. The person in question said all sorts of dumb things and it's obvious it was just an act, but how they could have assumed anyone else could go along with that nonsense was incredible. This chick I randomly met through a mutual friend told me I'm important, people look up to me. Okay, if you find the need to say this to other people, you ain't shit, nobody cares about you. I don't believe the earth revolves around the sun, I believe it revolves around God, so don't ever ask me for my beliefs. Girl was one of the smartest in my school and fell victim to QAnon Kool-Aid. There was a kid in my high school who would say things like booger wipes with no context, then laugh at himself like Beavis and Butthead. No, he didn't have Tourette's, he was just an idiot. Trump is the most Christian president in America's history. Trump is literally the opposite of the teachings of Christ. He is a literal antichrist. I stopped talking to the person entirely. After a whole half-term's learning an end-of-unit test on Earth's atmosphere, sir, why don't birds hit their head on the sky? This was secondary school. Teacher just stared in disbelief. I don't want to say stupid, but me and my buddy had a 30-minute argument over which way north was. I was blown away by how wrong and stubborn he was being. We were in his house too, haha. Girl in my high school class quite a while ago, probably 10th 11th grade or so. So can you actually see the equator? Like, is it just a line on the ground all the way around the Earth? If drugs are decriminalized, Narcan should be made illegal, because if you want to experiment with drugs you have to accept the consequences. Vote, people. I know for a fact she did. I had to do a quiz with the kids in an elementary school. I asked this boy the following question. What language do you speak at home? Oh, yeah, I can't speak. Because I'm blind. You're racist cause you listen to rap. The funny thing was that the person that said this to me got kicked out their friend group cause they said something racist like a month after. 5 Alves oysters, mussels etc. don't have nervous systems. Yes they do, and they are widely studied by the field of animal neuroscience. Yes, I know my world is small and weird. Chatting about my friend's upcoming jury duty, she says. They wouldn't be up in court unless they'd done it. Maybe not the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but it's in the top 10. I once heard my friend yell to my other friend as a walk out of a bathroom that leads to a somewhat crowded mall food court, "I am not washing my hands, those sinks are disgusting." There used to be a guy at my work who was trying to convince everyone that the US government was injecting mosquitoes with the COVID vaccine in order to get more people vaccinated. I was driving with someone and there was a trooper up ahead and I told her to slow down. She said she couldn't because a cop would see the brake lights on the front of her car. "Give me a pizza without the cheese and sauce." I'm not joking, this literally happened at a pizza stall many years ago, when YouTube, Instagram, TikTok etc. wasn't a thing. XD. I had an American, fully grown with children, on Xbox Live ask me, "Do you have days of the week like we do?" I'm from the UK. This was 9 years ago and I still think about it. In a bar a guy said to me they got little ears. I said, "You're not thinking about cutting them off, are you?" He smiled. Turns out he was Green River Killer. Most things people say on the internet, unfortunately. More specifically when they believe something should be illegal or regulated simply because they don't agree with it. When my friend ordered a cruller donut, the lady remarked, "That's the one that looks like a tire without missing a beat." My buddy goes, "Don't, all donuts look like a tire."